In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 hand-picked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode number 55. It's the end of the world.
As we know it,
but I feel fine.
I feel fine.
I feel great.
So if you haven't gathered, the song that I picked this week is by R.E.M. It's The End of the World.
And
As
why
we
did you
know
pick
it.
this song for this week?
Well, this was another listener suggestion.
It sure was.
Like a dystopian type of feel, end of the world. So naturally, where'd you go with the song? But
It's the
end
only
of the
one you
world.
could possibly pick.
So then I re-listened to it.
Yeah.
And it's got like a kind of a we didn't start the fire vibe at the beginning that I didn't remember. Like just a really intense, like listing a bunch of
Well,
things.
I'll be honest. We've been listening to this since whenever it came out in the 80s. I don't know any of the words beyond the chorus.
Me either. Me either.
I never cared enough to learn them for some reason. I don't know why.
No.
That's nothing against you, REM, because I
No.
know you're listening, Michael Stipe.
Well,
but, you know,
he's busy losing his religion in the corner.
asking Kenneth what the frequency is.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. And our listener that suggested it, she has a great name. Her name's Amy.
That is a pretty great
Amy
name.
W.
I'm pretty partial to that name.
So, Erin, thinking
Yeah.
about it's the end of the world.
Yes.
But I feel fine.
I feel fine.
Got questions for you.
Oh, hit me with it.
If it really was the end of the world, and let's say you're someone that survives this apocalypse, even if it's a gentle apocalypse,
A gentle apocalypse?
maybe not like a crazy like earthquake or meteor or something destroying the world, but just like
just like
the coronavirus just destroying
Okay,
us.
like a medium level apocalypse. All right.
Yes,
I'm
yeah.
okay. All right.
So imagine
all right.
you've survived whatever apocalypse this is.
Okay.
What would you make sure was absolutely not brought from our current world to the new frontier? And I will say that when I first read this question, I thought it was just the frontier. Like, everything is decimated. It's all just wilderness and prairie dogs and whatever. Yeah.
Dysentery.
Cholera in
Yeah.
the water.
Yep.
So what would you not bring?
Segways.
Oh, I did in no way anticipate
I know.
that.
Here's
Wow.
the thing. Here's
Okay.
why.
Okay.
I'm actually a fan of technology in most cases.
Sure.
I think that regardless of even if it gets used incorrectly or for nefarious means, most of the time it is progressing us
Yeah,
or is for a
absolutely.
good purpose. So there wasn't anything that I could say I don't want, like, oh, I don't want the internet. I don't want my phone. No, none of that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
If I didn't have Google, I'd be like,
Yeah.
what? How
be
do I live?
helpless now.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
terrible. How do I find out what time the Indian restaurant opens?
How do I find out what this mole is on my shoulder?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but the one thing I will say that I've never been a fan of is segways, and I will argue with anyone that brings no good or purpose.
Interesting.
High rate of injuries,
Okay.
little to no purpose. You could just walk. We're not solving
this is
any
true.
problems.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
For some reason, we thought for a while we should put some security guards on it. That just
We really did.
seems like you're asking for them to get taunted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It just, to me, it represents one area that just didn't need to happen.
It seems like sort of a fad that's maybe run its course and that will be looked back on like MC Hammer Pants. Today.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I would rather bring hammer pants back.
For sure.
And
They
these
look
Segways,
comfortable.
they're
those
great.
pants.
Yeah, really.
Segways don't look comfortable. I imagine. First,
To
have
be
you ever read or you've ever ridden one?
No.
Me neither.
Are you kidding? Have you met me?
I know. I
My
think we would
face
be
wouldn't
terrible.
exist. It'd just be gone. It'd be just road rash. Just permanent road rash.
What happened to Erin's face? It's just gone.
Do you know how
She
many?
fell.
I've told you before how much Mason loves America's Funniest Home Videos.
Oh, yeah,
and high number of Segway videos on there of just face plants.
Oh, so this is coming from a very specific place.
Yes, a highly
Of
educated
humiliation and education. Okay, great. Are you also worried that if you had one and then you fell, Mason would submit a video of you
For
to
sure.
America's Funniest
I feel
Videos?
confident that no matter what, at some point he's going to submit a video
That's
of
a
us
good
doing
point.
something.
Because he's now notorious for just surprising you in random places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he could just have a camera someday.
And I did tell you that at one of Evan's first show choir competitions, they made a big deal about you can't record this because of copyright because they're
Right.
singing songs. And it starts, and I look over at Mason, and he's just holding up his tablet recording. And I was like, I've never seen you do that. Like, I don't even know how you know that function. What are you doing right now? You can't do that. So, kid knows more than he lets on. He lets
And
it
he
out.
has a disdain for authority and rules.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I can't record now. I'm
Guess
gonna
what?
record.
I'm going to learn how to record
And
in
he
this next
just
second.
Was so serious and focused. Like, I need to make this video good. Like, what?
I need to capture my brother singing.
and dancing and doing his
Yeah.
thing.
Wow. Okay, well, that was a curveball, but I think I agree with your assessment.
Good. All right. I thought you might like that one. I mean, who is anyone going to miss their Segway? If you are, write in. Let me know. Explain to me what purpose it's bringing to you that you couldn't find in another way, i.e., a bicycle,
Yeah.
your feet,
Your feet's a good one.
a car,
Yeah. There are many mechanisms to take you from to and fro.
public transportation,
Yes.
Uber, or Lyft if you prefer.
Let's go lift. Yeah.
Taxi if you're
Yeah.
still living
Old
in that
school.
age. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like a weird smell and a beaded covered seat.
And some vomit colored
Yeah.
mats.
Yeah.
That probably have had human vomit.
Oh,
on
for
them.
sure.
Yeah.
Hands down. Yeah. Well, all right. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I agree.
So thinking about the end of the world, I mean, you could go apocalypse or you
Sure.
could just go things that are devastating.
Yeah.
So can you think of a time when you were younger and you thought something was the end of the world?
When I was younger, this is in the 80s, we went to church for a while. And I was learning about, the flood. At the same time, we were going through the Cold War, and I was thinking a lot about the nuclear apocalypse. And somehow, I think I read like a story, part of the flood story, that the next way that God would destroy us would be by fire. So I legit asked my mom and dad, do you think that God's going to destroy us by the nuclear apocalypse? Because that counts as fire. And the look on my mom's face told me I was a real weird kid, first off. And second, she did not anticipate this at all, and also did not get the same stories from what we were reading or hearing about in church. So yeah, for a good while, I thought that we were just going to burn because of what I heard at church.
Okay.
And because of the Russians.
That's a curveball for me because I thought you were going to be like, yeah, I got braces. 7th grade was terrible.
Yeah, no.
This was
before
like
that.
legit.
This
I thought
is-
the world was going to end.
This is when I was in elementary school, and I was
Yeah.
very consumed with the
Actual
Russian
world
nuclear
ending.
apocalypse. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a sign of your intelligence that you could actually parse out that this, you know what? These threats could actually be a problem because I think there was probably adults that weren't there. And second, it explains why you like a lot of
Explains a lot,
that
doesn't
genre
it?
a little
It really
bit.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of this was also that my parents just gave me free reign to libraries, so I read so many things that were
Yeah.
really above what I should have been reading. And I read the newspaper every day, and
Of course you did.
I was freaking myself out.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did it get delivered specifically to your room, or did you have to come out to the
No, I had
breakfast
to
table?
come downstairs and eat my Raisin Bran and take the paper as Dad finished it, and then I would take the paper from him. If Dad was around. Sometimes he was sleeping because, he worked at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where
Learning so much about you, and I like it.
my head was at circa 1985.
So on the outside, just happy Amy inside, just devastation. She's just thinking apocalypse is and not the gentle apocalypse that we mentioned before.
Fiery apocalypse.
Wow.
It might have also been influenced by the fact that my brothers had been born a few years earlier, and the world ended in so many ways then.
As you knew it.
Yeah.
And you did not feel fine.
Did not feel fine anyway.
Yeah. Fair.
So another question for you. Like we said, this week's theme could also cover just change or other endings, other beginnings, that kinds of thing. How do you personally handle change? And can you think of an example that illustrates how you handle change?
Yes. I feel as though outwardly I handle change fine. Like I can roll with punches. I mean, we've covered that. It would be my speech that I toured with and nothing matters. So change for me is not in like the general way isn't alarming. Now there are certain kinds of change that I don't do well with. Like if I'm close to you or we're like in a relationship and you start acting weird, that freaks me out. Like I read too much into people's actions, but just normal change. And I think what can illustrate that is just having kids, but also because of the wide range of ages of our children that you just never know what's going to come in the door. Yeah. I mean, sometimes they bring friends. Sometimes those friends stay for dinner and you didn't plan on it. Sometimes those friends move in for like 3 days. Sometimes you think that they're going to be there for 3 days and then you find that they're gone. I mean, lots of randomness.
So you have to be prepared for really anything.
Yes. Yeah.
It feels like an army situation where you have to just be ready to roll out in any situation.
And you just never know when one of them's going to have a problem. Like you have your day planned, you're ready to go. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do XYZ. I need help. And then you have to shuffle everything because panic.
Well, and you've also talked about before how you feel like you have to be a different mom to each of your kids.
Yes.
You have to parent each one differently. So in that way, then you have to be so ready for any weird thing from any sort of child and mom situation.
Yeah. And you have to know how to react based on that child and what is actually, some of them are more blunt and are just telling you what they need. Some of them are coming at you sideways and you have to figure out, wait, that doesn't seem, okay. It's
like you have to translate what's happening. Sure. Okay.
So I feel like, it's your own personal game of Frogger. And so I feel like change is part of that. Okay. I'm good with it.
Okay. Are there moments then, is it like in the shower when you go and cry? Is that when you really deal with change?
Yep. Okay. There it is. Yep. Yeah. Outwardly fine. Nailed it. Done. And then I go have myself a good cry and then I'm back.
Perfect.
Round 2. Here we go.
Because
it's like those dummies, that you practice kicks on. Like they go down, but they pop right back up.
Oh God, they sure do.
Yep. That's what's happening. I go down for seconds and then I'm back because just keeps coming.
Parenthood sounds great.
I know. Wasn't that a great advertisement for it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And again, I love my children. Don't anyone take that wrong. No. They're all terrific. I didn't mean that.
I feel like you feel like you have to make that disclaimer every time we talk about your kids.
Because I don't want anyone to think that I'm like, oh my God.
No.
Children.
No. Erin is a very loving mother, but you can be very just blunt about what the situation is.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Okay. And keep in mind that they're all boys. So that's another thing. I that is a luxury I have that I think maybe other people don't sometimes, is that I can just be a little more blunt.
Yeah.
So there are a few years in there where you can't be blunt with them. But
teenage boys. Sure. You've got 2 of them approaching those years.
Yep.
2 are past. 2 are coming. Oh boy.
Yep. Each with their own challenges. Anyway, so what's something that exists today that we never could have guessed would exist when we were younger?
Twitter.
Oh, God. I almost said that was the thing I didn't want to bring.
For sure. Like Twitter and also the trolls that come along with Twitter.
Yes, that's
right?
what it is.
Because even maybe the concept of the internet might have come into our brain when we were watching like 80s sci-fi and stuff like that. Right. Or the concept of a future computing thing.
Right.
But where it could go on social media and particularly Twitter, I would have never, ever guessed.
Right.
And in some ways, like, when you think about it, it's not such a surprise because you know that a lot of humans are just garbage. But
people.
Yes, but seeing it on a regular basis, you're just, you're forced to remember and realize that every single time you're on that thing.
And that's definitely something that exists a lot more now than when we were younger because there's an anonymity to it. You know, there's we might have had prank calls and whatever, but the actual hatred and vitriol and going after someone, that's new because you
couldn't have done that in the past.
You can just sit behind your computer on a keyboard and do it.
And even like prank calls when we were younger, there was a controlled group of where this might have come from. Like you could figure it out. You could piece it out. Whereas today it could be some rando in Rhode Island that is just, once is threatening to rape you for some reason.
Right. Yeah. Because they didn't like something you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
maybe that could be something we leave behind too. Let's just burn it.
Okay.
Burn it in the nuclear apocalypse that I envisioned in 1985.
Yeah. Well, someday someone might say you're a prophet.
Ooh, I like that. Oh, man.
Have your own graphic novel, you as a kid, as a prophet.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to have to start coming up with some prophecies.
You did in 85 that we're all going to die.
No more. Like, I need to come into my prophet powers now and prophesize?
Prophesize. Yeah. That's what we're going to call it. Prophesize.
You know what I'm saying.
Prophesizes. What prophecy would there be post-death? If we're all gone, that we all come back?
I mean, energy doesn't, go away. So, we're just a cycle.
Spoken like a true prophet. Spoken like a true prophet.
Oh, this means I could be a cult leader too. I mean, we talked about that could be fun.
Yeah,
that could be fun.
Yeah.
I don't know why I lit up so much when I
know,
thought
that
about
was
that.
alarming. I was a little hesitant to agree because you're real happy about being a cult leader.
I need to come up with a good name for my cult, and I need to come up with a good name for myself as prophet.
Yes.
Prophet Amy, I don't think has a good ring to it.
No.
So it's got to be something real good. Oh, I'll think about that. I'll come back to you.
Yeah, let me know.
Okay.
Yep.
In the meantime, we can talk about some of our picks.
We sure can.
So I have a fiction pick for you this week that is called The Rending and the Nest by Kathy Schwen.
Okay.
From 2018.
Nice.
And it starts off that 95% of the world's population has just disappeared. No one knows what happens.
Okay.
It just all happens in an instant.
Okay.
95% of people around the world are gone.
Okay.
So this event, the survivors, they named The Rending. And Mira is one of them. She was in a shopping mall when this happened. And so people just all over the mall, including her parent, disappear. So she finds a few other survivors in the mall. And together, they kind of try and piece together what happened. But then they also build a new community called Zion. So it's 4 years later. She spends her day scavenging the piles, which are like piles of inanimate objects that just appeared during the rending as well. So she's scavenging these literal piles of stuff where she can find like tubing and plastic tubs to help in the new community.
Right.
So then her friend Lana becomes pregnant. And it's the first pregnancy that they know of in this new world. But when she gives birth to a plastic doll.
That's horrifying.
That's horrifying. Pretty soon, the other women in Zion start getting pregnant, and they also give birth to inanimate objects. There's a sculpture that someone gives birth to. There's knitting needles. I had the same reaction. Erin's face is a real bad grimace. I had the same thought of like what that would mean as it exited the body, and it really, I didn't like that.
No.
It was real terrifying. So these things happen. These things are coming out of the women's bodies. But because, even though these are inanimate objects, they were in each woman's body for 9 months, so they feel a weird connection to them.
Yeah.
So they name them babies, and they put them in this room where they build little nests for them.
Okay.
So this is all happening. Into this mess comes a dude named Michael. And he's telling everyone how great the world outside Zion is.
Okay.
Zero guesses on how this goes because he's kind of labeling himself as a prophet.
Naturally.
There is a zoo that's involved that does not have animals. So, Yep.
Okay.
So that's all I'm going to say.
Oh my. All right.
Sounds real batshit because in many ways it is, but in a lot of good ways. What I really like about it is that the world has ended as everyone knows it, not just with the absence of all these people, but almost the complete changing of like laws that we take for granted. Like we take for granted that when we have babies, we're going to have like actual human babies. But now these laws of like reproduction and physics are completely changing. So everyone's just kind of like, what is even the world right now? Who are we? Does love still exist? Does humanity still exist? And that's what I really enjoyed about this, is that it's based on this, catastrophic ending, but then there's all these little endings and little beginnings of what it means to be a human. So yeah.
Wow.
Babies.
Babies.
That are not babies.
That are not babies.
Coming out of those vaginas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Came in
Knitting
hot with that.
needles.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Wow. Wow.
I know,
It actually sounds really good, though. I mean,
it was really good. And she's a very good writer. And I remember actually when I read this a few years ago, I reached out to her on Twitter and I was like, I loved this so much. And she was so gracious and really nice.
Oh, super cool.
Because I had such a crazy experience reading this and I felt like I wanted to reach out. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good example of Twitter.
You're right.
Good use of Twitter.
And you're right. I gave Twitter a lot of
No.
shit,
No. It was well earned and deserved.
With one thing on Twitter that's not bad is our feed.
That's true. Our feed is a delight.
It's a delight.
Damn
positive,
delight.
great stuff.
Yeah.
Hilarity.
I would never
everywhere.
be a troll.
No.
Unless I was like legit showed you a picture of a troll from the 80s.
Yeah.
And in
like
that
a troll
case,
under a bridge.
Yeah.
Or
remember the troll dolls? That was weird,
Yes.
but also.
Yeah. That was real weird. Why did that fad take hold? I don't understand the appeal now that I'm thinking about it.
The weird hair? Was it a hair thing?
It was a hair thing.
Guys never had shirts on. They always
Never
had
had
little,
shirts on,
little
nope.
shorts, though.
They did.
Opposite of Winnie the Pooh, who's missing pants but has a shirt on. So weird.
No matter what kind of creature, guys just get to wear whatever
Some
the hell
part
they
of
want.
Yeah, some part of their clothes just magically
But if
gone.
a girl did that,
Nope, they had little dresses. Those trolls had dresses.
yeah.
As good girls do. Well, you're going to be real impressed.
Oh.
Because when we talked about this theme, Amy and I were like, that's a great theme. Erin's screwed. Because I don't read a lot of dystopian work.
You don't, and that's okay.
No. I rely on you for that
You do?
mostly.
Yeah.
So, but this one I do feel like sort of falls in the dystopian category, but it's also just kind of an end of the world, what is going on. And I have to give a shout out before I say it, because this book was actually brought to my attention by Kelly Van Bali.
Our friend Kelly.
Yes, it's called The Heap by Sean Adams.
Oh, yes. She was talking so much about this. Okay, I want to hear about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's not necessarily dystopian in the traditional sense, but it is because it explores kind of the absolute end of the world that we kind of all assume would come with just blatant greed, disrespect for human life, which often accompanies like dark capitalism.
Ooh.
And I'm purposely going to call it dark capitalism because not in my opinion, feel free to correct me, I guess. Not all capitalism is bad. So I want to be very specific about that. This is like the dark kind of capitalism
Absolutely.
where owning everything, one person, that type of thing. So it also really explores loneliness in our culture, and in a time where we're supposed to be more connected than ever.
Yes.
We're discussing Twitter, social
Yes.
media, but this is really looking at that from a whole different level. So there's this multi-level housing complex called Los Verticales that stands 500 stories tall.
Holy
so
shit.
it was built. Basically, it's a self-contained city within this building. So they have their own businesses, restaurants. They have their own kind of almost government system because they have like a board, like a lot of condominiums do. But the whole structure collapses. And when it collapses, because it was so large and there were so many units, there's little pockets where people survived because the building didn't all the way collapse. So it's called The Heap because we meet these characters that their job, they are to go there and dig through the heap and find things that can be salvaged, but also to try and find survivors, to try and find, and day after day after day. And the government basically incentivizes it by saying, you can come, we'll give you a live-in stipend, we'll give you a little place to live, we'll give you a bicycle that you can get to and from the heap, and to help. So there's all these people, that initially go and start, and then it's starting to trickle off because this has been going on so long.
Wow.
There's a very interesting, right off the bat, you understand that there's kind of a class system because there's inner units and outer units in this structure. So the outer units have like actual views. The inner units, which of course are less expensive, have what like fake windows, basically. They had these screens they invented that you can make it look like whatever you want it to look like outside, but it's not real. You're completely enclosed.
Oh, God, I feel gross just even thinking about that. Yeah.
So the people that are helping dig through the heap are called dig hands. One of those people, the main character, is Orville, who's trying to find his brother Bernard. So Bernard had moved to the structure. He was a DJ prior to that, and he just seemed to like the idea of everything being contained. But what's weird is that they discover that Bernard somehow has power in there and is able to broadcast. He's DJing from the heap, so it's become hugely popular.
Oh my gosh.
People can actually call in and ask him questions, and then he answers them. And so each day, Orville also has an opportunity to call him and talk to him on the phone. So you're getting this very intimate look at their relationship too, which is the other part of this book does so what I didn't expect was this kind of whole family component of like, okay, he's searching for his brother, but they actually didn't have a great relationship prior to that. But he feels like, okay, he's so popular. He's out there. I have to do this. He feels very obligated to have these phone calls, and sometimes they're not going super well. And they're also broadcast, a lot of them. So it's, I'm having a hard time describing it because it is so many things, so many different like ideas to explore. And I just thought it was done so well. And it had almost like a Simon Rich quality to the details that make you go, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I haven't really thought of something that way. But then also making this huge like George Orwell 1984 point, which is also amazing. Brave New World. I mean, there's so many books that it brings up. So I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I mean, great first novel. He's also a graduate of the Iowa Writers Workshop.
Wow.
I mean, knocked it out of the park. It was great.
I remember Callie mentioning that, but she hadn't gone that in depth into the story. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And didn't she saw him at an event or something?
She saw him speak at Beaverdale Books here in the Des Moines area.
Where we have a presence, by the way.
Where you could go buy this book.
Yeah. We are just getting all sorts of plugs in. Look at us.
Where aren't we? It's like we have our own Segway just zooming around. But we don't. We take a car.
But we're not on a Segway because we wouldn't be able to control the Segway. Yeah. Okay. Well, other genre book.
Yes.
I chose a memoir, and it's called Love is a Mixtape by Rob Sheffield. This is from 2007, and this is one of my all-time favorite books. I love it for so many reasons, but one, Rob Sheffield is a rock and pop culture critic. He wrote a lot for the Rolling Stone. He wrote a lot for other music magazines. And right away when you start the book, in the first chapter, Rob is listening to an old cassette mixtape. And he's sifting through boxes, and you're thinking, moving or something. You learn right away, though, that Rob's wife, Renee, died suddenly in 1997 due to a brain aneurysm. She just dropped dead in their kitchen.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were only in their mid-20s when this happened.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So it was the end of Rob's world. But yet here he is. He's writing this book. He's trying to create a new one. He's looking back, thinking about endings and beginnings. So the rest of the book, he goes back in time. He starts talking about his musical coming of age. And he talks about how music led him to his wife, Renee. Music was a huge part of their life, going to shows, writing about it. They both became music journalists. And he says over and over again that the 1990s, was the best musical time in the world. And I remember when I first read this, I was like, I don't think that's true. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, wait, no, I see what he's saying, because this was when sort of Gen X musicians were taking over and punk was becoming mainstream. And he says multiple times, it felt like there was sort of a promise that even when the pop music came out and it was shitty, that there was something fun about it. There was something really cool about it.
Yeah, okay.
So he writes about love and marriage with Renee, including the 5 years they had together, and then her death. And it's really heartbreaking, but it's also really joyous, too, because he's celebrating their marriage, their life together, her as a person. And the best part is each chapter starts with the graphic of a mixtape, like the
cool.
outside of the case where you write down each of the songs. And so it's a different mixtape each chapter. There's one for like his high school dance. There's one for like a road trip. There's one that he made when he was trying to woo Renee, because that's what you did, right?
Yeah.
You made mixtapes for the people that you had crushes on. So I love that part. I actually found a ton of music from that when I was first reading this.
Yeah.
So I think this book, to me, like I said, it's all about endings, the absolute worst kind of endings, right? But also beginnings and how music gets mixed up in all of them. And mixtapes. I mean,
Killer.
mixtapes.
Yeah. Who doesn't know? Well, okay, if you're too young, you don't know about mixtapes, but man,
Yeah.
mixtapes. Did you ever do the thing where you listened to the radio and waited for a certain song to come on
God,
so you
yes.
could record it?
Yes.
Because you didn't have any other way. You didn't have
Yes.
Spotify.
You spend hours doing that.
hours. And you call. If you were me, you would call into the radio
I did
station.
too. Yeah. And one time I recorded when someone answered me like on air.
Yeah.
And I recorded my own voice. And I think it was the first time I heard my voice. I was like, oh, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Yeah.
Do you want to hear the most embarrassing story ever about me and mixtapes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, yeah, love to make mixtapes. But then sometimes you wouldn't have a tape and you'd be like, oh, I really want to make a mixtape. I'm just going to record over.
Yeah, you do.
So
Yeah.
apparently, well, not apparently, I know when I did this, but he was younger. I had decided that I was going to be Amy Grant. And I sang my own version
Oh, no.
of Baby Baby
Oh,
on
no.
a tape.
Oh, God.
So I'll give you a second to just think about that
Okay,
song.
okay,
Me just
okay.
belching it out.
Okay.
And then I recorded something else. Luckily, I only gave it to a friend, a girlfriend of mine. So it didn't get widespread. But she was like, listen, at the end of this
Oh, my
mixtape,
God.
there is you singing Baby Baby. If that was on purpose, why? And if not, you should record over
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I was like mortified, even though it was just my friend. Like it could have been so much worse, but
So you didn't know you were recording yourself?
no, I knew I was recording myself. I
Oh,
just didn't
you didn't
realize
know that it was going to go that way.
Yeah, then I recorded over that tape and gave it to someone. Yeah.
Oh.
I recorded something for her that she wanted to hear, and then
So I'd like to go back to the moment in which you decide, I'm going to tape myself singing Amy Grant. Walk us through that decision.
it's real simple. I had a real inflated sense of self.
Okay.
And I thought,
How old were you at this time?
oh boy, it had to be like upper elementary, maybe.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Like, or maybe like sixth grade, because
Okay.
because it wasn't like the same year. It was like a couple years later
Oh,
that this got
boy.
discovered.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so it was so
Okay.
far from my head, I didn't even remember it. And to her credit, I mean, good friend, love her to death.
She protected you.
Yeah, she did. But the way that she brought it up to me was to sing "Baby, Baby" to me, and I was
Oh.
like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "It's not one of your favorites." And then we just, I went down from there. But yeah, no, I thought I was great, so I was going to record it. And I was like, thought karaoke was the coolest thing. And
For
like,
sure.
everything about that was great. So why wouldn't I sing Baby Baby into my boombox
Yeah.
when I was like in fifth grade?
Will you sing it for us now?
Oh, shit. I got to remember the words.
Wow. I thought that was going to be a hard pass, and you were actually considering it.
I was.
You were
yeah.
considering it. Okay.
I mean, that's how much I love you. So,
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to remember the song,
I feel like that's one that we really can't afford, right?
that's probably
pretty
true.
popular.
Yeah.
Baby, baby. Mm-hmm. Taken with the notion. So much weird lyric play in that song, too, if you listen to it now. But
You know what I just remembered? A couple weeks ago, I was flipping onto 80s on 8, and I heard Donny Osmond's "Soldier of Love."
Oh.
That feels very akin to that era of like.
You know what else
Yeah.
I think it was about Amy Grant? And this is not a diss of Amy Grant by any means, but like she seemed accessible in the way that
did.
she didn't seem like overly put together.
Yes.
Like she seemed like someone you could possibly meet,
Yes.
which then I guess in my fifth grade brain translated to could possibly be.
For sure.
You know,
Yeah.
she always just seemed like she was wearing like normal clothes. Her hair never looked like it was that done.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably super insulting because she probably spent hours in a
Well, that
makeup
was probably
chair,
a
but-
very deliberate image, too.
Yeah.
Like girl next door kind of thing, like
Yes.
aspirational. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Man, I do want to say that I am lucky that I never recorded myself, because I did sing a lot to myself, thinking like, I sound good.
No, I can do
and the
this.
truth was I did not.
No.
And I'm so glad I
No.
never had proof of that.
Right.
So do you still have that in your possession?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
Could
but-
we give it out as a giveaway to your Broads and Books listeners?
If I find it, somebody can have it. I don't even care. I'm not even embarrassed anymore because that is not the most embarrassing thing I've done. Oh, yeah. Mixtapes.
I
Good
did not
stuff.
expect to talk about Amy Grant in this episode, or Donny Osmond.
No. Here they are, though.
Here they are.
Popped right up.
Yep.
Baby, baby. So my other genre pick is kind of a short story, maybe novella type. It was released as a single. It was actually published in 2014 by Electric Literature. They had this thing where they amplifies storytelling through like digital means. So for a while they were releasing like a one unpublished fiction work like a month or a week to get people interested. Cool. But this one was written by Jim Shepard. It's called Safety Tips for Living Alone. And this is set in the Cold War.
Oh man.
Right up your alley,
My
Amy.
elementary self is like, everyone's going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it's the story of 4 families whose lives are completely changed when the men from each of those families go to work on a surveillance platform off the coast of Long Island. Like that's their military assignment, and they're all together. But you learn about each of the 4 families separately. Very isolated, very dangerous. Some, are a little bit higher ranking than the others. But the height of the story is when this powerful storm is approaching. And at first, they think it's going a different direction, so there's no cause for panic, and it changes course very suddenly, and they don't have time to evacuate. Oh. So basically, they know that they're probably not going to survive. So the short story is a series, some of the phone calls that they make home, like letters that they receive after the fact. So obviously, this is the end of the world for these families, as they know it. But I really loved the story because it's this very difficult topic, but there's a sense of almost humor in it. But there's also this really human way of looking at the families. I mean, they're all so different. They all had something different going on. How each of those families move on without this person, how they handled that. It was so expertly done, and it was just interesting, and it was a different take on it. And it's not a huge commitment because it's, like I said, it's a novella. I mean, maybe not even a full novella, really. It's more like a short story. But I thought it was great, and it was really interesting. And yeah. Joshua Ferris was the editor for it. If you know Dinner Party and this is the
completely
I blanked on. I can see the cover.
I can too.
Yep. So that's great. Good plug for Joshua Ferris. Great.
Without any reference to
I do know that his
work that he
short
writes.
story is called Short Story Collections, The Dinner Party, and other stories. So I can give you that one.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then we came to the end? Was that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Then we came to the end. Yeah.
You know what? I'm still probably butchering it, and we're going to find out later.
That is
That's
it. But there's
Okay,
another
great.
one. He has another one too, but I can't
Okay.
remember. Anyway, so like I said, it was published by Electric Literature, which is a weekly fiction magazine, and it was a recommended reading. So it invites established authors, indie presses, literary magazines to recommend great fiction. So if you're an avid reader, it's a great thing to follow on their social media. Check out their website. Super cool. Once a month, they feature their own recommendation of original unpublished fiction, which is where this came from. So fun way to discover new things and explore. And if you're like, oh man, I need a break from whatever you're doing at your computer, check it out. Being an
fantastic.
internet troll, head on over to Electric Literature.
Read some shit, and maybe you'll stop being a troll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your life together.
Yes. Do better.
Yeah, do better.
Just
And start
do
by
better.
following Electric Literature.
Yes. At Electric Literature, I was at actually AWP last year.
Yeah.
And they had a booth, and they had a bag that now I use for all my library books, and it says "Read More Women," and that's all it says, and I love it.
It's amazing.
It's wonderful. And now I walk through the Des Moines Public Library, and I'm just saying, like, read more women.
Get
every
it.
time I'm walking.
Look at my bag.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I feel bad if I actually get a mail writer, because I'm like, well, I'm defying what I'm saying. And then I'm like, well, no, that's not equality. What am I doing?
Yeah.
These are the things that go through my head.
You have some very high level thinking arguments with yourself, which I'm impressed by. I think it's just a testament to your intelligence, but also could be affecting your stress level.
That is a very good point. And just so we're all aware, I also have very lowbrow conversations with myself where I'm like, do I need all those Reese's Pieces? And the answer is yes,
Every
I
time
do.
it's yes. How's that even a conversation?
That's a good point.
The
It's
conversation
really just,
should be, do I have enough if the world ended?
Yes.
Do I have enough to get me through?
That's true. When I'm at Target and I'm buying some, I'm like, should I buy some more? And the answer should always
be
yes.
Always
Always.
yes. Always yes. Or that monster trail mix that Target
Yes,
has.
that's good
If you
stuff,
haven't
too.
tried that.
And like you said, every time you open it, there's just a feel of newness in the air
There
and wonder
is.
and joy.
And there's just so many little things to discover in that trail mix. And I just love it so much. So weird. Oh.
Speaking of weird,
Yeah.
my pop culture pick.
Weird?
Yes.
Oh.
It is Jojo Rabbit.
Ah.
This movie came out last year. It finally came out on video, and I've been wanting to see this for a long time. I finally did just this week, and I can't say enough about it. I'm so excited.
Okay.
Yes. So this came from Taika Waititi, who actually won the Oscar for his screenplay for this. So the description just sounds nuts, really, because young Jojo is in the Hitler Youth, and his imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler. I often think about, like, how did one pitch this movie to a movie studio, per se?
Yeah.
And someone was like, yes, I will give you all my money
That sounds great.
to see Adolf Hitler as an imaginary friend. It works, though. Yeah. And at home, Jojo's mom, who is Scarlett Johansson, you can tell, even as a sort of observer, she's not really fully keen on the Third Reich and everything. This is in Germany during World War II. And at one point, Jojo discovers that his mom is hiding a young Jewish girl in the walls. So many things about this movie. One, it is hilarious. And World War II movies should really not be hilarious, but it is, and it works. One of the reasons is you've got Sam Rockwell as a just over-it Hitler Youth leader. He just cannot be bothered to care at all that Jojo is accidentally almost blown up by a grenade or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Rebel Wilson is a camp leader who says, let's burn some books, and all the kids are excited and yay, woo! It's the kind of humor, honestly, that you and I love. It's so weird. It's so ludicrous in so many ways. And also, it is ridiculous because Adolf is a terrible and wonderful imaginary friend all at once. He's played by Taika, and I just love him in everything. And I love, too, that he has said in press that the fact that he himself, Taika, is Jewish and Maori is a real sort of fuck you to Hitler and to hate and to, the whole idea of white supremacy.
Yeah, for sure.
Beyond being hilarious and ridiculous, it's also extremely relevant because these young kids are being taught how to be zealots. Like Jojo is about 10, all of his friends are 10, and they're just like, yay, we get to go to camp and learn about grenades and woo!
Right,
and
yeah.
learn how Jews are devils and all that kind of stuff. It's also so heartbreaking, too, because you see what's happening. You see, especially as the movie progresses and we're getting closer to the end of the war, you see what happens when the war finally comes to their small town. You see how all of that rhetoric just sort of falls away at the end. And it's so touching because this young boy finally meets this mythical, terrible Jewish person and actually finds a real friend at the end. So I picked it for this theme because it's sort of the end of the Third Reich.
Yeah.
It's the end of childhood, though, too, which was really interesting. Just sort of this end of innocence, end of, thinking as a child and becoming more of a world citizen and all that kind of stuff. And it ends, Erin, with the German version of David Bowie's Heroes, which I was already working up to tears by the end of this movie, and that just sealed it. I mean, it was friggin' waterworks after
Just
that.
killing it. Yeah, that is.
So I honestly, I can't say enough about it. I loved it so much. So I think if you dig our kind of sense of humor, which if you're listening, you probably do.
I would hope.
I think you would dig this movie.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Well, I went a little bit different direction with the end of the world and went to maybe the end of the world coming soon because we can't seem to figure out some stuff.
Oh, sure.
So what I'm recommending this week is a Frontline episode, which if you're unfamiliar, Frontline is a show on PBS, and they released a 2-hour episode called Amazon Empire, Rise and Reign of Jeff Bezos. And they released it on February 18th, and I watched it, and we already know that I have
I was just going to ask, was this part of your research in taking him down?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think I've been glib about that in a business sense. But this was such an interesting, first of all, I love Frontline because I think that in a world where we spend a lot of time pretending that our news isn't biased, they are actually just report. I mean, they try to cover both sides of the story. They make no opinions. It's just sort of out there, almost to the point in this one where you're like, come on, you got something to say about that, don't you? And nothing. You, they just kind of leave it up to you. But they really did a deep dive. I think at the beginning they said 2.5 years that they spent interviewing different high-level people at Amazon. And I don't know how to describe this other than to say it's like the people that work there in a cult. They know what they can say, they know what they can't say, and that's what you get from everyone. Whoa. And the only people that are speaking out about things that maybe aren't right are people that no longer work there or people that tried to say, hey, this is wrong, including safety experts. Obviously, people that worked, we've heard stories of people that worked in the warehouses, things like this. And so Amazon's done this, where they've been able to say, yeah, but we're bringing all these drops. We're doing all this on this side. And then people say, yeah, but, what's the quality? And I will tell you that this was conflicting for me because I tend to be on the side of like innovators and people that, if they have good ideas and they're promoting those ideas and they're steps ahead of everyone, there's nothing really wrong with that. They don't have to hold themselves back for everybody else to catch up. So there's a lot about Jeff Bezos that I admire in that sense. I think that he really is truly a visionary. I mean, he really gets things on a different level than most people do and is really able to see where things are headed. I mean, this is a guy who started Amazon as a book warehouse. That's what it was. He knew he wasn't going to make any money. He convinced investors to give him millions of dollars and told them that they wouldn't make a profit for 20 years. 20 years. And people still did it. That's how, and now look at, it just doesn't stop. But in his effort to be that and in his want to be the top, there's a lot of cutthroat things that are happening and a lot of things that have side effects, and not even side effects, but direct effects on our world and how things are happening. One particularly in the publishing industry. If you follow anything with that, there's been a lot of issues with publishers, and he purposely went after a lot of lower level publishers and got them out of the way. He's done some other things to higher level publishers. If they haven't gone along with what he's wanted, he makes it very hard to find their books on Amazon, or the buy button just disappears. I mean, there's a lot of practices that, and the long of that is that in a world where we're able to get media from a lot of places, the last thing we want to be doing is allowing one person to control that and one person to control anything that's published or put out. When you cut everybody else off at the knees, suddenly you're in charge of it all. So a lot of interesting stuff about that. It really breaks down the argument of whether or not they're a monopoly, what the government should be doing. I thought it was fascinating. I feel like you get a lot of good information on both sides. And, I don't think it solves any Amazon problem. I'm not saying that. It just gives you a lot of things to think about. It made me confront a lot of feelings I have about business or what's valued in business. And as a business person myself, there's a lot I respect about him, but then there's also a lot I don't. So it was, I thought it was super well done. I really liked it.
That's fascinating that he pitched that as such a long game and people bought into it. And then, like you said, to maybe deliver on that, that's where he really, I'm watching this show right now called The Deuce, which I'm going to recommend in a future episode. It's about the growth of pornography in the 1970s and how the mob was involved and everyone was taking their cut, and police and state government and everything. And there was one line that the creator said in a behind the scenes where he's like, whenever it comes down to people making a lot of money, the people that are actually doing the work aren't getting shit. It's everyone up top here. And that seems so like Amazon in a way that, maybe there's this upper echelon of people that are benefiting from it, but everyone that's doing the actual work, whether it's the warehouse workers, whether it's the actual people that are creating these goods, they're probably seeing shit. And
the actual crux of the problem is that he created the marketplace, but then he also has share in the marketplace. So he created the place where everything's being sold, and he owns that. He owns the data that's collected from there. He owns the actual interface. He owns all that, but now he's also putting products on there. So if you own the space and other people are paying to use some of that space, but you have your own products that are competing with those people, well, what products obviously are going to come out on top? And he's putting other people in the position where they have to accept his terms, because otherwise there is no way to compete. And on the flip side of it, they're making a lot of people that do sell on Amazon make a lot of money because it's a very common marketplace. So a lot of things
good
to
and
think
bad.
about.
As with anything,
really
interesting.
But it was interesting, and there's a lot of things to take away from it. I've been thinking about it a lot since I watched it, to be honest. So.
And like you said, we joke a lot about you taking down Jeff Bezos, but this is in a lot of reason why. This is why you have your sights set on him. Because there's some dirty dealings.
And I think that I mean a few episodes ago I might have said that I was against the ropes. I think it's probably more fair to say after watching this that I haven't even arrived at the arena.
You haven't come in with your like theme
No.
song and your robe
No.
and like whatever. Okay.
No. Like he's already won by default, and
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
begging the judges to give me a second chance.
Okay.
Is where we're at.
Yeah. So like the fight has already happened, and
Because
you're
I didn't
coming
show up.
right, and you're
Yeah.
coming up to the ref and be like, "Wait, no, I'm here," and they're like, "Nope, sorry,
No.
yeah,
No.
okay." Well,
And then he's
that's
like,
too
I
bad.
got all this money, and I'm like, I have one gold doubloon, and they're like, oh, I don't know.
You should be like, I got one gold doubloon, and I got this podcast, yo, changing media
Yeah.
or something. I
Yep.
don't know.
I think that would work.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anyway, those are some
Yeah.
great recommendations.
We really did do a lot of way
Yes.
just beyond dystopia or apocalypse. We really looked at it from a wider lens.
Big view.
Yeah.
Got so much to cover if you want to get your end of the world on.
Yeah, and you got so many good choices here.
So many
This
good
is what we do
choices.
for you every week.
Every week.
And you know, some people that listen to us, they really enjoy that, and they give us some reviews. And we actually have a review that we want to read to you now.
I just noticed this person's username.
What was it?
It's More Books, Less Bullets. And I am about it.
I love that.
Yeah, More Books, Less Bullets had this to say. Like car talk, but books? Question mark. Is the title.
Okay.
I love these ladies. They are absolutely hilarious. Half the time, I forget that the podcast is even about books.
I think
It's
we
just-
forget that, too.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
many times.
yeah.
It's just entertaining. Reminds me, for some reason, of the old show Car Talk, because they always sounded like they were having so much fun, and it's just contagious.
Thank you so much for that
Yes.
review. And you're absolutely right. We do have a lot of fun. And we sometimes forget that we're here to talk about books.
Yes.
So that's where a lot of the random stuff comes from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
More Books, Less Bullets.
Thank you. And you know what? You could write a review like that.
You could.
We could read your review on the air. Mm-hmm. So why don't you do that?
Get on it.
Yeah.
You have an example right there. But in the meantime, happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
To me, I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you... This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.